Let's go. 3-1.
Hey, do you want to check those ones over there?
Let me try this British Diet Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. It's probably their newer formulation, because there's also a Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. Wow.
Another wonderful British export.
I gotta say, this is different than Diet Dr. Pepper in the United States.
Do you think?
I think that it's a more modern formula. It's more syrupy. That was what they couldn't quite crack in the 80s. How do you make a sugar-free drink taste like it's got that sugar thickness?
And how does that do?
That's got it.
Yeah, are you sure it's not to do with the glass? Because you know how drinks taste different depending on what they're coming out.
Yeah.
Do you know why that is?
I think it's probably a lot of things, not just the container, but how much carbonation they can put in, how much of the syrup they can put in based on different technologies, whether it's a can or a bottle. A
Right.
fountain drink is very different. It can be a lot more fizzy,
Yeah.
but you can also crank the syrup up more than the manufacturer recommends. But the recommended amount is what's in the canned and bottled versions.
Oh, really? I wonder how far away you have to get from that for it to no longer count as Dr. Pepper anymore.
I do wonder legally what
Like
you
they've got to
can
sue
do
someone. Yeah.
because you bought the bag.
Yeah.
You bought the syrup. How much you mix in with the carbonated water should be up to you. It's up to the consumer as well, because you've seen in a fountain the beverages come out and you've got like a dark band and a light band.
Yeah.
And that light, that's both of them mixing. They mix more in the cup, but if you push your cup on that machine and then scoot to the side, so the lighter beam just falls and gets drained away, you're mainly getting syrup, and you
Yeah.
get like super they call it heavy soft drinks.
Yeah.
But you're putting a label on it. You're saying this is Dr. Pepper.
Yes.
So if you, on the back end, crank up that syrup level above where Dr. Pepper would like it to
Exactly
be,
right.
could you get in trouble?
But who would you get in trouble with? Would you get in trouble with the consumer who's expecting Dr. Pepper, or with Dr. Pepper, who sold you a product that you have to sell in a particular way? You know?
Well, I mean, depends how you define trouble.
Yeah.
Like, the consumer might say, oh, this is too thick.
Yeah.
But you could actually be liable monetarily to the Dr. Pepper bottling company.
Yeah, because if you're just like selling the wrong thing, I mean, if it's not Dr. Pepper and it's being sold as Dr. Pepper, then presumably you can sue for your money back. But what counts?
Right, yeah, a customer could say, I want my money back.
Yeah.
This machine isn't working.
Yeah, but then I wonder if, you know, somebody who drunk a bunch of bottled Dr. Pepper could just have normal draft Dr. Pepper and go, you know, this doesn't taste the same, I want my money back too.
Yeah, this is mirology. This
Exactly.
is what is Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, it is.
Its recipe has changed a bunch over its history.
Yeah.
We're at the point where I fell down this rabbit hole for a while of trying to figure out how to make Coca-Cola flavor. Like,
Right.
what is that secret recipe? Is it nutmeg and vanilla and toasted orange, or like, what is it? And I realized it's none of those. It is a concoction of laboratory byproduct chemicals with names like oxyphenylene,
Yeah.
7, and it happens to have like a cherry note when consumed by a human. But it's not cherries. It's not even based on cherries. It's just something that was found, and that's their secret. You can use equipment to analyze what the chemical components of something are.
Yeah.
And if you put in Coca-Cola or Dr. Pepper, you don't get like, the computer doesn't spit out, oh, it's got fresh cherries in it. Even a cherry won't register as containing cherry, because cherry is a word we give to a incredibly complex suite of chemicals.
Yeah, and I suppose ultimately those chemicals are themselves made up of smaller things, such that if you had a truly accurate ingredient list for Coca-Cola, it would just sort of say quarks, electrons, you know, mass.
That's
charge.
right. Yeah, I saw a meme once that was like, okay, here's what's in Apple fruit snacks, and the ingredient list has a million things with hard to pronounce names, but here's what's in an apple. Ingredients, apple.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the retort was, okay, actually, here's what's in an apple.
Yeah.
It's like iron 3, and there's all these chemicals that make up the very complex organic structure that is an apple. And then there was a third revision of the meme where someone just had fruit snacks and an apple, and then underneath it, they just had all the subatomic particles in the standard model. And it was like, that's it, they're the same.
Who was it that said if you want to make a sandwich, you know, start with the universe? Is that Carl Sagan?
Carl Sagan. Like, if you want to bake an apple pie from scratch, first you must invent the universe.
Yeah, somebody tried to do this once. I forget who it was, but as like a project, they tried to make a sandwich from scratch, by which they mean like, you know, growing the bread, like rearing a pig to get the bacon for the BL, and doing everything necessary And I want to say it cost like $15,000 and took about 2 years or something, right?
Yeah.
And so I suppose the question that's being driven at here, and it's a good way in actually, is kind of when does something count as a part of something else? Like how far do we have to dig down into something's parts before we're satisfied to say we know what makes it up? You know, like if you've got a table, I can say, what's the table made out of? It's made out of a surface and its legs. And you could then say, but what are the legs made out of? Well, they're made out of wood. Well, what's wood made out of? And you can kind of keep on going. But it seems like that's a bit of an illegitimate approach. If I were to ask you what this table's made out of, and you told me it's made out of electrons, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would just say there's no table there. There's a bunch of stuff, and it's tabling right now.
Yeah.
And it can table in a lot of different ways. I could remove one of its legs, and it's still tabling pretty well.
Yeah.
There's some things it's doing that are atypical for a table, like missing one of its legs. But once you start asking about what the table as a noun is made out of, you're overcounting the universe. You're saying, well, there's all this stuff, and then there's also what they make up. So there's all of that stuff plus one extra thing. Their combined nounhood.
Yeah.
And I say we can just reject that when we're being technical. Obviously, I don't walk around going, oh man, I'm tired. And my friend's like, oh, sit down in that chair. And I'm like, what's that? There are no chairs. But the only way to avoid a lot of these clever little funny paradoxes, like the ship of Theseus, the Sortes paradox, you have to admit that, look, it's a fiction. We've cut the world up and we've added names of our own invention.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the solution is staring us in the face here. Like you take something like the ship of Theseus. Now, I read recently, I don't know if this is true, but I read online that apparently the Wikipedia page for the ship of Theseus has had some, 2,000-3,000 edits over its history, and that there's no single sentence on the Wikipedia page for the ship of Theseus that was in the original Wikipedia entry for the ship of Theseus, which I thought was quite a nice touch.
Yeah, it's a nice touch, and it's a great way to show what's really going on, because if you said, well, the ship of Theseus article today isn't the same as the one in 2007, I'd be like, of course it's not. We know it's not. It has a different name.
Yeah.
Because the page has an actual revision name with a timestamp and everything.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a boat, it feels more like, well, boats can't just change. So you see that the identity of something really depends on the context.
Yeah.
From a really far away perspective, it's the same. It's the Wikipedia page for the ship of Theseus.
Yeah.
But you zoom in closer and you go, well, is that the same boat? Well, it's the boat that has been continuously registered to Michael Stevens. But if you're asking me where's the original material the boat was made out of, that could be somewhere else.
Yeah, and it seems like the only non-arbitrary way to answer a question like, well, which is the ship of Theseus? Is it the original planks that you've reconstructed, or is it the one you end up with all of the revisions? The only non-arbitrary answer to that is that there is no such thing as the ship of Theseus.
Yeah.
There's just matter that gets arranged in a particular way, and we put labels on it. In other words, it's whichever one you want it to
So
be.
it's much more legitimate to ask, where is the stuff currently being labeled the ship of Theseus?
Yes.
Or where is the stuff that once was?
Yeah, exactly.
And the ship of Theseusing.
And that's when you have to get a bit technical and say, well, what do you mean when you say, which is the ship of Theseus? Because if you mean the matter that made up the ship of Theseus, well, those will be subatomic particles that are probably all over the universe by now. They're sort of spread out all over the place, but I don't think that's functionally what you're interested in right now, because you want to go to sea.
Yeah.
So if you were asking, if the captain comes in and says, where's the ship of Theseus? You'd say, it's over there, sir, here's your steering wheel, or whatever they call them on boats. Whereas if, Zeno walked in and said, where's the ship of Theseus? You'd say, it's nowhere and everywhere at the same.
Is a pseudo question.
Depends on the context, right? And it's the same thing asking, what is a table? I mean, you made a video called What is a Chair? Or Do Chairs Exist, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of those sort of classic Vsauce titles, right? It's sort of like, who even knows what that question could even be getting
Why
at?
would you even ask?
But this is the kind of thing you're getting at, right? And this is, you used the word already, mereology, the study of parts, how parts relate to wholes. Are you then a mereological nihilist? in thinking that there are no real material objects, there's just stuff that we arrange?
If that's what that means, then yes. I don't remember all the isms and ists that
Right.
exist in ontology, but I believe that there is stuff. But I don't believe that there are any nouns besides the vague noun stuff.
Interesting. So stuff for you is like, whatever's actually there. There's just stuff like matter, particles, that kind of stuff. And when you put that together in an arrangement, like into this chair or into this table, that there's not actually some new thing called a table or a chair. It's just essentially a label that we're putting on some
stuff.
Yeah.
And stuff does not mean matter. Because there are ways to put stuff together to make antimatter. There's a way to put stuff together to make a dream.
Yeah, right.
Right? That does sound like some kind of nihilism, doesn't it? So maybe it is mereological nihilism. Well, I really like, I forget the guy's name, big author in the field, who, I think his whole thing, he called it organicism.
Peter Van Inwagen.
Yes, okay. So his whole thing was that, and I could not put my finger on why he believed this. I read his book over and over again, but he was like, yeah, definitely, there's only stuff, except if it's alive, then it's a brand new thing. And it almost felt like, it just seemed like living things were a bit magical.
Yeah,
But he couldn't really define when life began or not. Is a tornado alive?
Yeah.
It's always exchanging matter with its surroundings, and it's moving, but it also maintains its shape. A whirlpool is an even better example. Like, it maintains its position and shape, but it's made out of something different every second. But it's not alive? What about a flame?
Yeah.
Is a flame alive? And I think he came to a point where he was like, I don't know, but whatever counts as alive is a thing.
Yeah.
Above and beyond the stuff that it's made out of. And the reason I like that is that it can be summed up so hilariously as the belief that people exist, but they don't wear clothes.
Yeah, because clothes just being a material object are not actually existing things, they're just matter or stuff arranged clothes-wise is the language that people use. I mean, we could break this down for a moment because we're sort of in the deep end here a little bit. Like, there is this question of, if a table is made up of its top and its legs, why do we consider those put together as one object, but this glass of water that's on top of the table, we consider it a separate object? Well, maybe, I can lift it up like that.
Yeah.
But I could, unscrew the legs and lift the top off as well. And you gave the example of a bikini in your video.
Yeah.
That's one thing, but they don't touch each other. And is it like, if I put the top half of a bikini in a car and made it sort of start driving away, is there a point at which it's far enough away that we can't meaningfully say it's one bikini anymore? It seems like it's kind of just up to us.
Yeah, it is. It's an art. It's not a science.
Yeah, right. My favorite way of explaining that idea is to say, does the left-hand side of this table exist?
Yeah, right.
Because,
right.
Yes, it does, but clearly its distinction as a thing is dependent on our minds.
And where you're standing.
Exactly.
The left side, to me, is different than what you would call the left side.
Yeah.
And, the bikini is a really fun example to think about because one thing that ties the two parts of a bikini together is that they match.
Right.
But they don't have to.
Yeah.
You could wear a different mismatched bottom and top. However, I still think, the folk philosophy, the folk philosopher would say, well, but that's not the same bikini. You've taken two different bikini parts and put them together. So then all it takes is for a fashion designer to design a bikini that doesn't match. There is no missing half, two missing halves somewhere. That's just it. That's how it's sold. Now it is one bikini. And in order for it to be one bikini, we're having to rely on the intentions of an artist. And that's what this all comes down to. It's just what's the context, what's relevant, and who's asking.
Yeah, I kind of want to ask, if you had two bikinis and you took the top half of one and the bottom half of the other, and you wore that, how many bikinis are you wearing? I guess you want to say I'm kind of wearing two halves, so maybe I'm wearing one in total, but it's not the same thing as wearing just one bikini.
1/2 + 1/2 doesn't equal 1.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, right? It's weird to think about. But okay, here's my suggestion, right? So Peter Van Inwagen says there's something about life that seems special, and if we try to define what life is, we might say that, like, it seems to be made up of stuff which, like, acts towards an end. Like, all of the parts of my body, broadly speaking, are involved in, you know, keeping me alive and you know, causing me to, you know, promulgate genes. All of the parts of a tree seem to tend towards its sort of preservation. A table kind of only does that artificially. It's not naturally, right? Like, I have made it so that this leg and this tabletop, the whole sort of all move towards this end of holding up a glass. And so the table only exists as a sort of artificial version of this, but where that exists in nature, like parts that act towards a unified end, that's what gives us means to say that it's one thing, something like that, maybe.
Sure, okay, I'm following that, but I don't agree, because you still need to figure out where you draw the line.
Yeah.
Does a crystal have an end? Like, if you break the crystal and put it in the right solute, it forms again. Is it alive?
Yeah.